I'm great, thank you. Nice, cool Saturday, Sunday morning.
Yeah,
Just
thanks.
chilling.
Okay, awesome. So I want to start off this conversation. First of all, I'm trying to help as many people go through a journey of self-discovery. Today the focus is on creatives in the advertising space. So I'd like you to help me navigate that conversation, like how you think about creativity and in your experience, what it's looked like over the years. Before we get into that, maybe you could briefly tell me about yourself, your background, how you got into the advertising space.
Born and bred in Zambia. My folks came over from UK, so I'm a colonial child, and born and raised here, stayed here, and went to school here, went to university here, did my graduate studies in America, played a bit of golf for a while, decided that advertising was for me, and always was attracted to advertising basically through copywriting, because I've always enjoyed words, working with words, and one of the great things about advertising is that the art is in being brief and getting the message across in a succinct and impactful way that delivers the intended meaning. So it's not one of those fora in which you just waffle and waffle and waffle because it doesn't land at home. So it's writing that got me into wanting to be creative. I think I thought about writing a book and being a novelist and all of that sort of stuff. But really, I don't have the attention span to sit down and write a 300-page novel. So that's why I found advertising is perfect for me, because it's short bites which are manageable.
Do you think, how old were you when you moved to Zambia? When your family moved to Zambia?
I was born here.
Oh, you were born here?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So my folks came out in 1946.
Okay.
So you have to consult your ancestors to find out what Zambia was like in those days.
Okay, awesome. At what age did you start to discover or get hints that you were creative, and how did you go about like sharpening that tool or navigating that?
I think I always enjoyed English literature very much. I enjoyed reading. And strangely enough, although I ended up dealing with words and writing, I started by drawing and just doing pictures of cars, drawing pictures of elephants. I loved making things. Even getting cardboard boxes and making things out of the old apple boxes, I don't know what sort of things. But and of course, I enjoyed sport as well when I was a youngster, playing cricket, and I think I found there's a good outlet for creative expression even in sport, because you have to find a way in the moment to make things happen, and there's no rule book for that, which is great. So basically, I think I was pretty obsessed with golf from about the age of 14 to 20 something. But then I was also studying, and I found learning naturally towards literature and English, and that's what I really enjoyed.
How's been that the journey of getting deeper into the creative space in terms of like positioning yourself there? Like, what are some of the challenges you've had to overcome? Another thing I know is that being a creative, if you consider yourself one, it's also very hard to be disciplined. So what things have you deliberately done, or did you do?
I think being disciplined is not at all a problem. If you are passionate about the area, if you're passionate about what you do, because it becomes part of your life. You get out every morning, you write, or you do ads, or you think of ideas for strategy and stuff like that. But I think pulling your discipline part, I think. So one day I was with some friends. This was when I was at university, and I had this crazy idea. I don't know if you ever knew the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
So when he used to get green, he used to run, all of his jeans would be torn all over the place and his shirt would be everything. So I said, now imagine if the Incredible Hulk was wearing Levi jeans and they didn't rip, because they were so strong. So people laughed, right? So I said, now that's an advert. They said, that's an advert, Peter. So I said, advert, oh, maybe advertising is what I need to do then.
Yeah.
So that's what got me interested. That was my first ad that never ran. I probably would never run. But that was my first strike that made me realize, this is cool, because it's a matter of putting ideas together with a purpose. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not just getting attention for the sake of getting attention.
Okay.
Because, as I've always said to people, you know, when clients don't like the work and they have to go back to the drawing board, I said, well, you know what, if you want to do your own work, then just go and be an artist, or go and write a novel or something like that where you've got complete control. But our creativity is very focused and very disciplined.
Okay.
So once I discovered that copywriting and coming up with ideas, little sound bites that are either humorous or emotionally engaging or intellectually rewarding, that's when I realized I love that.
Okay.
And when you love something, then there's no matter of discipline involved.
Right.
And I could find I would sit and read about, I'd go and get magazines this thick from campaign magazines and Adweek. I'd go to the top floor, after I'd graduated, I'd go to the top floor of the library on a Friday night and sit and just read them in peace. And then you learn about strategy, creativity, see which people are doing, which agencies are doing what work, and what's happening in the world. So that's discipline is no problem. I always tell people, if Tupac wasn't getting high or getting drunk, he was writing. Okay, that's all he did.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I get high, but but writing, it's non-stop for me. It's always, my mind is always ticking, looking for ideas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looking back in hindsight, were there, you know how like when, let's say you're starting out and then you're trying to navigate, like you have all these interests, right, that are naturally coming to you inherently. Were there things that helped you that were kind of nurturing you along that path? Because it's very easy to kill a certain mindset at an early age, like through people wanting to put norms in you. Would you say your path was fairly clear in terms of like you had an environment that nurtured that side of you?
Yes, I was lucky. My mother was an English teacher as well, so she was creative.
Okay.
My dad was a very easygoing guy, so there was no, you have to be a lawyer or you have to be a doctor. When I wanted to be a professional golfer, everybody thought I was mad, but my dad said, look, if you want to do it, you must do it.
Yeah.
So that kind of, I was always told, just be yourself, and so that helps. And then, of course, I was lucky enough to get a scholarship, actually through a golf acquaintance, to go and do my master's in communication in Ohio, in America. And that's where I learned about the background to copywriting, the background to public relations, the background to advertising. And I think it's good to have those fundamentals in place so that when it comes to developing creative, the creative is working towards an end. Yeah.
Okay. What was the first project you ever worked on? Like from university, you've acquired your skills. Maybe while you're even still in university, if you did a form of internship. But what was the first thing you ever worked on in a professional sense?
I'd finished my master's. I came back to Zambia. I got a job with a small agency called Broughton Advertising, and as a copywriter.
Okay.
But in those days, there was no such thing as a copywriter, an art director, a client service person, or a research person, a media person. You have to do it all.
Right.
Okay, because the business was still small. It is still smaller even in this day and age. So I think the first thing was doing work for Standard Chartered Bank, creating a little cartoon character.
Was that like drawing, illustration?
No, it was writing for him, and we got an illustrator to work on it, and we worked as a team. In those days, there were no computers. If you walked into a studio in those days, it was a big drawing board like this.
Yeah.
People had more like an architect's thing.
Yeah.
They'd have the artwork. All the borders were done in pen. The letters were done on individually by a thing called letraset, which you haven't even heard of.
Okay.
They didn't have typesetting even. So if you wanted to put lines of copy, each letter would have to be put on through a stencil one by one. So if the client changed the copy, it was a big problem.
A nightmare.
Yeah. So that's where you learned about the idea of having the creative idea in place, ready to go, and then executing.
Okay.
In this day and age, because you're able to change sound, you're able to edit things, I think a lot of the thinking is lazy because they just start the creative process and see what they come up with. And people lose the idea that the creative that we do has to be based in strategy and consumer insights.
Okay.
And therefore the briefs then get sent into the agency, and the briefs are interpreted, and then you start doing the work. Too often these days, people just start doing the work.
Okay, without looking
at the strategy, and the thinking becomes lazy.
Okay.
Even though the creativity could be there,
Mm-hmm.
the thinking sometimes is lazy. Yes.
Okay. Communication is a very key part of advertising, and I think you being a copywriter, in a way, kind of delves you deeper into the world of communication. Do you think there's a major difference between how you would craft copy for campaigns back then versus today? Like factoring in things like there's the internet, people have shorter attention spans, but like the core of a message, would you say the fundamentals have changed, or they're pretty much the same from the time you started?
I think they're pretty much the same, but evolving. The fundamentals of human nature in our lifetime and your lifetime and your children's lifetime is not going to radically change. Okay, so technology is going to change. Man's evolution is a slower process than technology. Technology evolves faster than we do, so we still have our old habits and our structures and our mindsets and things. The French have an expression, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. The more things change, the more they remain the same. So whether it's one guy in a marketplace 100 years ago telling people about why they should buy his toothpaste, or a person doing a television advert, or doing a TikTok thing why people should buy toothpaste in 2023, there's still the idea of sales involved there, how you attract attention, you make it interesting, you make it creative, you make it relevant. So that guy who was in the market selling whatever it was telling a story about their product. And in this day and age as well, if you try and tell stories around your product, and it's a cliche to say it's storytelling because it is storytelling, but people just hang on to easy words and easy things to remember. But creativity is a very complex thing.
Okay. Okay. How do you think about it? Like you just said, creativity is very complex. Like,
yes.
How does that look like for you? Like, how would you define it?
Because it's when good ideas come up. Especially in advertising, where it's a collaboration. Sometimes you'll think later, where did that idea come from? I mean, how did that person even think of that? And often it's based on people cross-fertilization of ideas, conversations. Normally when there's people laughing, having a good time, that's when creativity really flows. Okay. Or it could be an individual craft. Because our creativity in advertising tends to be, particularly in this day and age, of so many pieces of information being put out when you scroll. I mean, somebody spends like 3 days doing a TikTok.
Yeah.
And then somebody sees 1 second of it, and the next thing it's gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm digressing, but I think the point is that even that attention span, that's the big difference now. Is you have to have the immediate hook, whereas before you would have time.
Yeah.
To set up an ad with a nice long emotional introduction and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Because people were captive to the TV.
Yeah.
Right? They had two options: either watch the ad or go and make some coffee or some tea, right? Or have a conversation. Now, it's brutal. So the way of communicating has changed, but the messaging still needs to be founded in product and consumer connections.
Okay. Digressed a bit from what we're initially talking about. So I was you were taking me through your journey, transition. You're now in your first workplace. You've now into the advertising world. Maybe take me quickly through how you went from that to Fulcrum. Some of the challenges you had to overcome to get to the beginning of the Fulcrum journey?
You know, it was a business journey really. So I was at Broughton. And Colgate was the toothpaste in Zambia, so we did a small little campaign for fresh, clean toothpaste.
Okay.
And Colgate had a monopoly of everything. And then we did this campaign for one of the parastatals. It was called National Drug Company, I believe. So we said, now you have a choice, fresh, clean toothpaste, and that really wound them up. So anyway, the guys hired me to come and join to start working on the wine. I said I could start working on the Colgate business. Okay, so and at the end of the day, it just shows that's what got me on my career to transition, was doing that campain.
Okay, the Colgate campaign.
The ad, and then your work is what attracts you, what keeps you going forward. So, and then you know, I developed. In those days, it was pretty frustrating because, as I mentioned, you had to be the client service person and the creative at the same time, but that soon changed. So I've always been. That's one of my biggest challenges, is trying to. Once I got into YNR, I gradually took over YNR, the majority shareholder, and when we transitioned to Fulcrum, where we now become a local agency with some of the key guys now are the partners in the business. One of the difficult things for me is because really, you know, even the MD or CEO or whatever, I'm a copywriter.
Okay.
Okay, and I could obviously, and I appreciate art direction and visual productions and those sort of things. But one of the challenges is just in a market like this is trying to just be creative and also trying to run a business at the same time is not easy. But fortunately, I think we're getting to that structure now. Got good people in finance and the like. So we're able to focus more on creativity. And now, particularly, you know, when you've got that scrolling, you have to have something big. So creative has become, even focusing on creative has become even more important.
Okay.
A lot of the time, to be honest, sometimes it's just a matter of getting the job done, getting it done well, consistently, reliably, because you need to build that track record over time. It's you know, yeah. So that's been one of the challenges. Is trying to just focus on creative and focus on running a company at the same time.
I guess that was pretty much the beginning of leading up to where we are now in conversation. What are some of the things that you've seen in the Zambian landscape over the years that you feel need to be improved on or haven't changed much over the years? Like,
I think one of is undervalued, but I think people are not prepared to invest enough money in productions and invest enough money in creative people.
Is that on the agency side or the client side?
It's both the agency and client side, but it's driven mostly from the markets. I wouldn't say client, from the market side.
From the market side, okay.
But it is changing because people have realized that if you want to catch that attention of somebody in that first 3 seconds, or you need to create that big campaign feel across all of the channels that we have these days, it requires very strong skill sets, strategic skill sets, management skill sets, and creative skill sets. And so that's been one of the challenges, is trying to monetize the business. Is not, and we're a successful agency in Zambia, so it's even harder for some of the smaller people. But I think we've been victims of our own
success. Not success,
but victims of our own desire to just please people and do the work all the time. To never say no or yes, we'll do it. So I think as an industry, we should have been I think we're starting to get to that stage now where we say, if you want the work, if you want the quality, you need to pay for it.
And set up fundamentals that would help, like the Zambian creative advertising space start to be valued. And what does that look like? Is it building better schools in the arts?
There's a need for a college of communication here. Although education itself has fundamentally been changed by AI and this monster, the internet, and all of that. But I mean, if you look at, for example, the number of youth we have in Zambia, and you look at the availability of formal jobs. That's why I take my hats off to Chibolia Media Farm for developing people in the creative industry, which is great. There's going to be such a pressure point. So definitely learning and colleges of communication and things like that. We definitely need a school of advertising. South Africa, they have them, but I don't know whether technology means that Zambia's already missed the bus. You know, sometimes they talk about leapfrogging, because if somebody sets up a college of communication now, how relevant is that going to be with the way that learning is changing through AI and through communication? I think education is fundamentally changing at the moment. So yes, there's definitely a need for it, but what form it's going to be in, I'm not sure.
Part of why I wanted to have this conversation with you is to help maybe like independent creatives out there that are trying to make their mark. They are very undervalued. I think an independent freelance graphic designer probably does not get paid what they're worth or the worth of their creativity. What are some of the basics that I'm a freelancer and maybe I'm struggling to find work or people are not paying me enough, the people at that level, what can they start doing to help the industry as a whole, to become better recognized and better valued?
I think it requires creative people and generous people, okay?
Yeah.
Because they've got broad minds and stuff, and so they're generous. They tend to do stuff for too little.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, people have to live. So for freelancers,
Mm-hmm.
I would say focus on doing better work.
Okay, sharpening the skills.
Sharpening the skills, make the work better, make it pop, and then you can get a higher price, I think, and that's also what we're learning as well. It's not just a matter of being an advertising factory. People, I think, focus on quality, hone those skills, be obsessive about what you do.
Okay.
Because once you're obsessive about the work that you do, success follows. Not necessarily always. I mean, you know, in advertising, a lot of the time it does. If you want to be a fine artist, or you want to be a musician, or you want to be a poet, obsession can sometimes lead to complete obscurity, and you only become famous after you die, like the old grandmasters, the artists and stuff. So, fine arts, I don't know. That's a tough one, and that side of the non-commercial creative. It's a very risky area. You know, one of my favorite expressions is from that Fugees song, which you probably haven't even heard of the Fugees.
I have heard of the Fugees.
You have? Yeah. Okay, so you're not as young as I thought. So it's too many MCs, not enough mics, right?
Mm.
So it's a very competitive business, creative business. And so I admire those fine artists and writers who have that passion. But to just do non-commercial stuff, it takes a lot of guts. And it must take a lot of faith. And I think the road to success is a much more difficult one than going through the commercial communication. But I think that the end product of fine artists is normally superior to that of commercial, because there's less compromise involved in the final product. Okay. Whereas, and a lot of the time there's too much compromise in the commercial space.
Okay.
Because there's clients, there's people within the agency, and there's many people involved in approving the work. But those dedicated individual creators who are writers and poets and artists don't have to consult, and they don't seek approval. They just go ahead and create. So it must be quite a liberating space to be in, because I've always worked in the confines of the, oblong space, the dollar bill shape. That's what's kind of defined my world. But I think the individual craftsmen come together to make, craftspeople come together to make the components of a great photograph and great art direction, or great copy, or beautiful lighting, or wonderful cinematography. Those things all combine, and that's collaborative teamwork, which is generally the norm now in the media.
Talk to me a bit about being a professional creative. I think one of the things that usually kills a lot of young creatives is maybe this person will be really good at what they do, but maybe they don't know how to present themselves in front of a corporate client, or they don't know how to charge. What are some of the basics that, from your experience as a creative who's independent, trying to come up, how can they position themselves to be able to get the best out of what they're trying to do?
So being in the professional communication industry is not an individual job.
Okay.
As I've just said, it's a teamwork. You have to have the right team. You've got to have good guys or good people. When I say guys, I mean guys and girls, of course, who can present, who understand strategy, the sales guys who get the business, the finance guys who close the deal and make sure that the money keeps going through. So try not to act alone. Okay, you must collaborate and you need to build a team because it's very, very much around teamwork. But of course, maybe AI is going to change all of that because now you don't need an art director, you don't need a copywriter, you don't necessarily need a photographer, you don't even need an editor soon because you'll just be doing text to final product.
Do you find yourself using AI for your copywriting?
All the time.
Okay, but you always have to fine-tune it in a way.
No, absolutely. Somebody was asking me about, we were chatting about ChatGPT recently at the WPP conference in George in South Africa, where it was great coming together of all commercial people, commercial communications people, and we were chatting about ChatGPT, and people said, well, it just writes all the copy and everything. I said, well, it's a bit like you see these programs, The Voice, and those music talent programs, and then the judges all pontificate and say, oh, that was good. But there was very often when somebody sings somebody else's song, they say, you made that your own. You made something of yourself in that. So what I would say with AI is make it your own as well. So that must be, it's you that controls that. It's not necessarily interpretation. But, computers rubbish in, rubbish out, right? So it's very much, I really, really enjoy working with AI because it just, if you're creative, I'm particularly a very impatient person. So, once it's in my head, right, I want to see it as fast as possible. And AI is really helping that. Very, very much.
Do you have a mental framework that you take ideas through when they come to you? Or let's say client gives you a brief and then what are the steps that you go through to articulate?
I think it's a whole process. Ideas before advertising is one of the things that we try to do before the creative. So one of the most important things is strategy, and that's creative strategy. I've been fortunate enough to be taught by some amazing people. Sandy Thompson from YNR taught us about the whole structure, the process we called OCTA, which is objective, challenge, truth, and answer. In terms of the communication, what is the objective that we need to reach the commercial objective and the brand objective? What is the challenge? What is the challenge about people in the existing market that we need to address? And then what is the truth? The truth is, what do we know about people and their behavior and their mindset that's going to help us overcome that challenge? And then we come to the answer. So that creative strategy is so important. And then once you find yourself writing the answer, you're not sure then where the strategy ends and the creative starts beginning. It's a grey area. So that's the point of magic for me. Then you say, that's the aha, this is the idea. And then that idea can be expressed in a multitude of ways.
Do you have a mental framework that you take ideas through when they come to you? Or let's say client gives you a brief and then...
It's a whole process. Ideas before advertising is one of the things that we try to do before the creative. So one of the most important things is strategy, and that's creative strategy. I've been fortunate enough to be taught by some amazing people. Sandy Thompson from YNR taught us about the whole structure, the process we called OCTA, which is objective, challenge, truth, and answer. In terms of the communication, what is the objective that we need to reach the commercial objective and the brand objective? What is the challenge? What is the challenge about people in the existing market that we need to address? And then what is the truth? The truth is, what do we know about people and their behavior and their mindset that's going to help us overcome that challenge? And then we come to the answer. So that creative strategy is so important. And then once you find yourself writing the answer, you're not sure then where the strategy ends and the creative starts beginning. It's a grey area. So That's the point of magic for me. Then you say, that's the aha, this is the idea, okay?
Yeah.
And then that idea can be expressed in a multitude of ways.
What would you say have been your biggest milestones personally through your journey through YNR and Fulcrum, like the ones that were more like defining moments, and what would you say has been the key to the success of the business?
I don't know. You know, for me, life is a blur. I don't know. You know, for me, life is a blur. If you ask me what is a milestone, I don't know what my milestones are, to be honest.
Okay.
Achievements, get awards, it's great.
Uh-huh.
And then you've got your award, and then next day you still have to write new ads for clients, you know, so those things go fast.
Okay.
I suppose being a partner in the business, becoming a shareholder and a partner with YNR, that was a big milestone for me.
Okay.
I was really proud to be working with the global agency. And also, I think being with Fulcrum, becoming a locally empowered agency is also one of the milestones as well for the business.
Okay.
Because normally most agencies in Zambia are owned by one person, but
Yeah.
this is now owned by the team, which is great.
Okay.
Consistency and hard work,
Okay.
yes, and some financial discipline. Some financial, yeah, we could have been more disciplined financially, but still it's fine.
Yeah.
It's good. Consistency, hard work. You must show up every day.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course, never being too content. Once you're in a happy space, then it's a dangerous space. Like
Right.
with brands as well. You know, they become very high. They be high awareness, high relevance. Sometimes the four pillars of brands. Sometimes you think they're in the perfect space, and then unless sorry, I've got a tick here. Unless you are changing, unless you're innovating all the time, before you know it, you become static. And a lot of the agencies now, in this day and age of AI, are still sitting in that thing. We're trying to get some guys to move on and say, guys, change. These things are supposed to be automated. These things, you know, why are we not working with this? Why are we just still doing this thing?
Same old thing.
Yeah, it's the production that's changed, not necessarily the ideas, although where the ideas are coming from is also changing because of AI as well.
Okay.
And data.
Okay. So this has been very insightful conversation for me. And as we wind down, I have two traditions. The first one is I'd like you to leave a question for my next guest, any question that they'll have to answer, and they do not know the context of how you're asking it, but it's just something you'd want to ask a random stranger. That's one. The second one is, how would you describe, how have you managed to adapt yourself through the years? Because over the years that you've worked in this industry, it's required you to maybe be different versions as technology has evolved, or what's been your major key there that you would highlight?
One, I would say to them, how are you going to survive AI?
Okay.
Okay. Second one is, you just have to stay young, and you mix with young people, listen to new music, listen to new things, be inquisitive, look at different areas. Like yesterday I was looking at how to build a program for agency traffic using ChatGPT.
Okay.
That's got nothing to do with writing ads or anything, but I spent about an hour trying to do it, and I'm making good progress. And so you have to be learning new things all the time. And even, you know, artists, musicians, bands over time, they have to change and evolve, because some of the big guys are reinventing themselves for new people. So I'm digressing here slightly, but I think one of the creative hooks that we have in music is the tune and something that just attracts people to that. And because now I think so many people have been getting caught up in production, that I don't know if you've noticed that how many old songs have been resampled. Every song has got this resample. I heard that song, and then the youngsters love it. Okay.
Yeah.
But apart from, I've been very, very controversial. Ed Sheeran is writing new stuff, but there's some. It's too formulaic at the moment. I don't know. So what I'm trying to say is that you have to keep evolving.
Okay.
Keep your principles. Keep your brand DNA, because you can't change, and you've got to understand who you are, be consistent in that, but keep fresh and keep young.
And keep learning. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for taking time to be with us on Introspections. I'm sure there are a lot of young creatives out there that can pick up one or two things on how they can better master the art of their creativity. I think, that's it for today. Thank you for coming through.
And I'll just leave with one word to people as well. There's no substitute for passion.
Okay.
And working hard and focus. Focus. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
the last one.
Me or him? No, I think it's
It's you.
Even you can start with Mr. Tony.
So just the last line.
the last line? Okay, so I look
that
at
camera.
Okay, so I'll start. Well, that was our conversation on mastering the art, a conversation mostly on creativity with Peter Armstrong, the CEO of Fulcrum. Any last message as we wind down?
I'd say discipline, consistency, hard work, and focus. Focus.
Okay, cut.
Great, thank you very much.